This is the Isle of Whithorn in Wigtonshire, and I'm here to share some more exciting tales of Solway smuggling. The coastline from Creetown to Port William was a very popular stretch for smuggling ships to put into shore because of its many caves and coves. During the 18th century, smuggling along the Solway became so rife that the government was forced to garrison troops in the area at Port William. They also brought in many more vessels to police the Solway Firth, which led to an increase in the number of chases taking place. This inevitably led to tragedy, including the loss of a smuggling ship with all hands right here off the coast at the Isle of Whithorn. Very few chases ended so badly, thankfully. In fact, many only ended in frustration for the government ships, as the majority of those ships were slow and heavy compared to the smugglers they were chasing. One particularly audacious smuggler outfoxed a government ship right here in the old Isle of Whithorn harbour. Sir John Reed, who you'll remember was tried and acquitted for the murder of the bridegroom from Ramsay, spotted a large smuggling ship headed up the Solway coast and gave chase. They came to the Isle of Whithorn harbour, where Sir John was certain he had caught the smuggling ship. Now, before the harbour here was extensively rebuilt, there were two ways in and out of it, but one was considered far too shallow for bigger boats. Sir John was sure that the smuggling ship was too big to escape him, but it did, using the shallow exit. When the tide went out again, there were clear gouges in the sand caused by the prow of the smuggling ship forcing its way out of the harbour through the shallows. Smugglers much preferred to avoid getting into fights with the government, as it could cost them their precious cargo. At Port William, near where government troops were stationed, two well-armed smuggling ships spotted the troops awaiting them on a beach where they had intended to land. The smugglers launched a boat with a spokesman aboard. Coolly and calmly, he addressed the troops on the beach. With great politeness, he asked them to retire a short distance, offering them ample refreshment and compensation for their trouble. He explained that if the troops wished to fight instead, both smuggling ships had their guns trained on the beach, ready to fire a broadside. After that, he told them 100 well-armed men would move in to fight. Unnerved by the threat, the troops pulled back. Within minutes, people and pack horses appeared and the smuggling ships were quickly unloaded. True to their word, the smugglers left a sizable supply of spirits on the beach for the troops, who were soon quite merry. Just like at Balkerry House, smugglers on the Wigtonshire coast bought and renovated many farms and houses in which to hide their smuggled goods. The smuggling company, Morrison Galton Company, converted the Clone Farm at Luce Bay. They built two cellars, one easily accessible for fooling excisemen and one underneath that for storing their real goods. When the second chamber was finally discovered, it contained 80 chests of tea, 200 bales of tobacco and 140 ankers of brandy. An anker is an old Dutch measurement, which is equal approximately to 38 litres, so that was more than 5,200 litres of brandy. At Drumtrodden Farm, smugglers built a fireproof chamber under the farm kiln. If excisemen were spotted, the kiln was lit, completely blocking off access to the cellar. Another trick that smugglers often employed for hiding their goods was a sink rope. Barrels were tied to a line with stones attached to it and an anchor at each end. This would allow the goods to be left in the water so that a smuggler posing as a fisherman could easily retrieve them. And this is Creetown, which was once a popular town for smugglers to make their homes. One of the best stories about the Creetown smugglers concerned salt. Duty on salt had been substantially increased in England in 1694 by William and Mary in order to pay for their ongoing war with France. This made salt a worthwhile commodity for smuggling from Scotland to England across the Solway. As the non-payment of duties increased over the next few years, so did fines for those in England caught with illicit salt. After the 5th of June 1704, no salt was permitted to be brought out of Scotland into England by land. This, of course, made salt an even more smuggled commodity. A boatload of salt was landed on the east side of Wigton Bay, but the smugglers were surprised by excisemen and the salt was seized and taken to Creetown Mill for storage. It was locked up and put under guard. A dozen smugglers met at a nearby pub to plot a way to recapture the salt. They decided to get a load of old salt bags and fill them with sawdust. They carried these on their backs to the old mill. The soldiers on guard at the mill, believing that another contraband boatload of salt had arrived in Creetown, gave chase. During the ensuing chase, another group of smugglers broke into the now unguarded mill and stole back all of the salt.